We have Uyi Eboma online. Hello, Uyi. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mike. Good to be here once again.
All right, Uyi, we've gone through that. You've seen that particular video here. There, that young man, 16-year-old, had mental issues or whatever the issues might have been. But, you know, it seems like prior to this time, we used to have AI where it was restrictive in some manner. You cannot ask AI, oh, I want to rob a bank, how do I do it? You know, there was that some form of framework, security framework that will restrict AI from doing this kind of things. But with GPT 4.0, which a family is now suing for, this came up. How can we prevent such things from happening? If this can happen in this particular point, it can happen anywhere. How can we prevent? How can we safely use AI chatbots and prevent such incidences and occurrences?
Okay, thanks for bringing this up. All right, and it's a very critical issue because usually in the development of AI models and AI like the ChatGPT and all of that, there's what is called GRC, which is governance, risk, and compliance. So they have for organizations and they have for countries as well. So normally these AI developers and organizations are supposed to comply and follow the frameworks. And one of the key frameworks there is safety, whereby you're supposed to test these models to be as robust as possible so that even if people misguide them or try to be tricky with them, it will not lead them in a way that's unethical or in a way that leads to self-harm. That's supposed to be the way. But, you know, with the race to of, you know, competing AI companies, you know, OpenAI, Gemini, and the rest, a lot of them are racing to who's going to be superior and all that. And sometimes they are, how do I put it, they are not complying with some of these things that have to be. And this is a clear case because this young man was able to navigate away from those initial safety measures and find his way around AI for AI to now be conversing with him on issues like suicide. Normally, you're supposed to, let me say, trigger maybe the helpline or stuff like that, or give him contrary advice about not taking his life. But it went ahead and was even, you know, working with him, how to write his suicidal note and other stuff like that, which is a sure breach of AI, responsible AI. So it means you can't totally depend on the developers of these models again. It means there are loopholes. So for underage, for example, the parents have to be very careful here. You have to constantly monitor what your child is doing as much as you can, I know some of these AI models, they leave reels behind, they leave some trails behind in some previous conversations. You may have to start looking at that because you can't trust these models anymore to be able to automatically or intuitively do that for your kids or your underage. And beyond even underage, even as adults as well, you have to be careful. If you're going through situations like that, instead of totally depending on these chatbots, seek face-to-face help, seek real-time help, because you can't totally depend on this bot at this time. And even OpenAI, they didn't really deny it. If you see their response from their legal side, they didn't really deny it. Yeah, they didn't. So they accepted blame for it, that they're going to keep working on it. And truth be told, technology is continuously evolving. They can't be perfect all the time, so we can't depend on them for perfection. So there is the part of the developers, and there's our individual part, there's the parental part, there's the community part that we have to play to make sure that we are constantly safeguarding ourselves from these unethical and these harmful practices. Yeah.
Wonderful. Now, you mentioned the community, the parents, and of course, you know, the developers. Now let's come into government. You know, we've spoken about, even in Nigeria, we've spoken about regulation of social media, and this, I think, should fall under that. What can government do? Is there anything that government can do in such a way? Because as much as you even mentioned this, you know, some people might still be misled and still want to go, because at one point, you know, based on the conversation, it was said that the young boy asked for, should I go and ask and talk to other people? And the chatbot specifically said, no, there was no need for that. You know, is there any form of regulation that government can do as some sort of a two-factor, I don't know, two-factor security, or, you know, in that, so that even when the developers do, what can government, is there anything that can be done in that regard?
Okay, part of GRC, that's a governance risk and compliance, is training, putting measures in place, proactive measures, not just reactive, proactive measures, first of all, to the developers. You mentioned something like a 2FA, all right? So they may not be maybe two-factor authentication in this state, but they will imprint on the developers that they must follow that if they're to operate. If they're going to allow their bots running their country, they must follow these principles. They must show proof that it has gone through robust testing. In fact, GPT go through some part of the testing before it was released, because it was in a race to release that before Gemini. If you follow the story very well, it was in a race to release that. So they went ahead and did that. And of course, there's been this conversation around AI going on here, like, you should be careful who you are becoming on your way to success. While you are trying to be more successful, you could be causing more harm. All right. So the government in this part, to make sure that this is done. Nigeria, we have a data protection area, and we have our AI. In the last AI conference, they have a framework that's been developed, because the only two around in the world now is the EU framework and the Canadian framework that developed in the world now. So everybody's trying to model after that, whereby there is some, it's an act actually that they are modeling after, so that they can enact this as an act in every country, so that these developers, where these boats are going to be used in this country, should comply with those things. So we are not yet there, but it just shows that the government should accelerate their steps to make sure that there's a policy that takes care of that, all right, while on the personal side, parents, individuals, and organizations are doing that. But the government can do that, so that if anybody breaches that, the person will be, liable to damages and all that, and that will serve as a deterrent to all others trying to operate in different countries.
Let's wrap up with this from the parents' part. After the government has done theirs, the developers and all of that, now from the parents' part, we have stuff like YouTube Kids. We have where parents can actually look and restrict their children. They can should I say monitor their children's footprint, digital footprint online. What can parents do in such scenarios to ensure that their children do not get into this particular situation?
Okay, the very first thing is understanding what AI is about. AI literacy is still very, very poor in Nigeria. A lot of parents don't even know what AI is and how it's being used in everyday life. So some are averse to technology. We have those kind of people like that. But first of all, it's for parents themselves to immerse themselves into learning how these boats work. They should chat with those boats. They should understand the capabilities of these boats. Then, of course, it now gives them the knowledge base to be able to educate their children and know what to click, because you know what to click and all that. But if you don't even know how these boats work, what do you set? How do you check the trails? How do you set restrictions like that if you don't know? And it's not like we're blaming the parents, but if the parents don't know, seek somebody who is knowledgeable in this around you to guide you, to teach you. You can take courses, you can attend trainings, you can do all that to learn these things about AI. It's gone beyond automating workflow now. It's gone beyond making your job easier, better, or writing memos or writing letters or essays and the rest. It has become a vital life skill that everybody has to learn. In this case now, to even protect your child, you have to learn. You have to invest in AI education.
All right. To do that as well. Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much, Uyi. This was quite an insightful and a topic that was quite educative. We'll be having you, of course, in the next course of a few weeks, and we'll talk more about this. I know you do a number of trainings on this, and of course, you make it available to people. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure talking to you, Uyi.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.